Hey, it's Scott Petrak with another episode of the Brown Zone Coverage Podcast. Well, did anybody see that coming? The conversation surrounding the Green Bay Packers was about the Super Bowl. The Browns stifled them on defense, then managed to score 13 points in the last 4 minutes for a stunning upset. Here to break it all down, as always, is Dave Chudowsky of Go, the WKYC Morning News. How about that one, Chud?
Unbelievable. A word we use too often, and it's cliche and all of that. But I mean, flabbergasted. Didn't see it coming. I mean, Scott, usually in a game, it's never over till it's over. All those cliches. Man, I thought it was over, and so did ever. Let's be honest. Who thought they were coming back to win that game? They could not score to save their life. They get one field goal the whole game. Yeah, their defense was incredible, and,
Right.
and thank goodness that's what won it for them because their defense is so good right now. But I can't believe it's like everything had to work perfectly, and they get the one turnover, which you've talked about on this so often that's what kept them from being elite or to take that next
Mhm.
level, right?
Yep.
I thought of you watching the game. I'm like, they get the turnover, so that's what you called for, and they get it, right? They get the interception, but now they have to score a touchdown, which, I mean, hey, all right. But even if they do that, listen, we all know the Packers are going to go down and score. Oh my gosh, they blocked the field goal, and now you have to get into field goal range, get back to the line of scrimmage, and then kick a was it 51 yards?
55. 55.
55, my bad, 55. I mean, it really is like something you write in a script that you see in a movie that now in a movie it would have been a playoff game or the Super Bowl,
Right.
but it's incredible. I can't believe it. I'm not going to sit there and I'm sure there's a lot of people going, oh, I thought maybe they could win that game. Nope. Me and you both predicted the Packers. We didn't think they'd win, and sure enough, they did. And hats off to them, Scott. I mean, you were there. I mean, can you believe it?
Well, no, Chud. Like the defense was playing so well that you thought, okay, they're hanging around. Can something happen to change this? But when the offense doesn't score for the first three quarters, doesn't get in the red zone until the last 5 or 6 minutes, when they kicked that field goal with 3:38 left, that was the first time they'd been in the red zone all day. They needed those two Quinshon Judkins runs. Like if we talk about all the pieces here, it starts with the defense. The defense keeps them in the game, only gives up 10 points against a good offense. Right? Jordan Love's good. Josh Jacobs is good. They have some playmakers over there. So defense plays great. And you could tell Jordan Love was worried about the pass rush all day. They sacked him 5 times. He kept getting rid of the ball quickly. He didn't want Myles Garrett and Mason Graham and Malik Collins and all those guys to get him. So that helps the defense, right? It helps the coverage because he's trying to get the ball out of his hands, which is what you have to do as an opposing quarterback, which is one of the reasons the Browns defense is so good. So the defense puts them in the spot where they have a chance. But what was the offense going to do? And the offense had done nothing downfield. They hadn't run it great. They were playing so conservatively, and I think I want to get into this later, Chud. But there's just nothing to be excited about. People are booing. You can hear the "Go Pack Go" from all the cheeseheads that were there. And then Judkins changed it. Those back-to-back 14 and 38-yard runs started that first field goal drive. But then even on that, they get to the 1-yard line. They get a chop block penalty that moves them back 15 yards. So now they have to kick a field goal. So they still need a touchdown. You're going, well, how are they going to score a touchdown? They haven't come close all day until then, and then they self-destruct there. And then Grant Delpit makes the play of the game, or the first play of the game, with that interception. And Chud, as I'm driving down to the stadium, and we talked about it last week, but I'm driving down to the stadium Sunday morning, and you're thinking about, okay, how can they win the game and whatever. And I don't think they can win without scoring a defensive touchdown or putting the offense in such good position to score a touchdown, right? And that is Grant Delpit intercepting the pass and returning it to the 4-yard line. Like the defense handed the offense a touchdown, and that was the only way I thought they could win. Now, I didn't think it would be 13-10. I thought we're talking 20-17 or 21-20, something where the offense did a little bit and then the defense put them over the top. What it really was the defense did just about all of it. So Delpit makes a great play. First interception the Browns have had since December 2nd. First takeaway of the season. The Browns cash it in. Judkins gets his first touchdown. And then they give up, or then there's a pass interference, and then they give up a tight end pass, and you're like, oh my gosh, you're going to lose the game. Defense played great. They're going to lose. Browns are going to lose 13-10. You're not going to be able to blame the defense, but 2 plays at the end. And then they almost force they do force a fumble. Replay says they can't, there's no conclusive evidence who got it, which the Browns swear that they recovered it. So maybe the blocked field goal is just a little bit of, ball don't lie kind of thing. And then Shelby Harris gets the block. And Denzel Ward's flying off the edge. They get a great push up the middle, get the block. And then, that, like you said, Chud, that's not even the end of it because they got to get in field goal range. And with 12 seconds left, I don't know. I'm going to say that it's a gutsy play from Stefanski. But I don't know what the other choice is. I mean, do you try to throw a Hail Mary? Do you try to throw a quick out? They said, no, we got enough time to go quick pass to Njoku over the middle. Everybody get to the line, spike it, and get your field goal team out there. And Stefanski usually you need 15 seconds. But they tried it with 12, and they were able to get the ball spiked with 2 seconds left. So that's good coaching. They practice that throughout training camp. They practice it at the end of the practice week. Every week, those 2-minute situations. Pulled it off to perfection. And then Andre Schmidt, what a great story. The guy took so much grief after he missed those 2 kicks in the opener against Cincinnati that cost him the game. People wanted him out of here. I said I would have made a switch, yet the Browns showed patience. They stuck with him. We find out after the game, or they said it on TV during the game, that his mom had died of a brain aneurysm in July. So those poor kids dealing with all this stuff. People are piling on, and then he goes and nails the 55-yard winner. Hasn't missed a kick in 2 games since that opener. It's just great. And, his teammates mob him at midfield. He jumps into the dog pound. So, this team needed a win, Chud, and we talked about how they blew the chance against Cincinnati in the opener, and when was this win going to come, and how a win would relieve all this pressure. And now they got it, and they got it versus a legitimate Super Bowl contender, and in a great, fun, crazy way. And, if you're the Browns, you hope that leads to more, that it gives them the confidence, that it lets them relax a little bit and then get into the season. And then you just hope win number 2 doesn't take forever to come.
I think you just answered like 8 of my questions, all right there. So many different directions to go, and I don't know where to go first. But let's go to Schmidt first. And I have to say, that says a lot about his character. We've learned more about this young man now.
Yep.
To overcome losing your mom like that, now overcome basically losing a game. And let's be honest, did you see that soundbite from Shelby Harris after the game? Like being said, he knew he messed up in week 1. Like that's not something that you say the day of, but you can say 2 weeks later. He's like, yeah, he knows he messed up, but he came through and he knew what he had to do. But the bottom line is you lose your mom, you lose an NFL game because you missed a kick and an extra point. This kind of tells me this is a strong, mentally strong kid who maybe they have found a kicker in, because obviously kickers have to be mentally strong, because you've even said when it goes bad, it's because it's mental. So maybe we have something here in this kicker. I just feel so good for him. I feel so great for him that went in, Scott.
Yeah, I agree, Chud. And I hate to get carried away because if he misses 3 next week, we're going to be talking about you got to cut the poor kid. But
right,
I tend to agree with you, Chud. I do think he showed a lot in the resilience that he showed. We saw him kick the game. I know it was only preseason. We saw him kick the game winner in that preseason finale, which might have won him the job. We see the game winner against, the Packers on Sunday. It does show a mental toughness. Plus, he's got a huge leg. Right? He's from 55, and, I don't know if it's Brandon Aubrey, right, the Dallas guy. I don't know if it's that kind of leg, but it was good from plenty from 55, right? Yeah. He's probably good from 60. So I think he's got what you're looking for, and now it just comes, can he do it week in and week out? But he certainly checked off some boxes, and I do credit the Browns for showing some patience or not some patience, for showing patience with him following week
Well,
one. And,
yeah.
For whatever reason it was, whether it's, they talked about just how they saw this body of work, whether it was they knew all the stuff that he'd been dealing with off the field and said, hey, there's a lot of reasons you can miss a kick, and let's cut this kid some slack. We like what we see. Whatever, the patience paid off at least for 1 week.
Well, and I think it goes to good coaching too. And I'm telling you, I've always backed Stefanski. I've never thought he should be fired. I hate when that comes up because with all of the quarterbacks, and we know, I don't need to explain it all. Everyone knows it, everything that he's been dealt as far as the quarterback situation. But sticking with him and Scott, I mean, I'll tell you when I'm wrong. Hey, I picked the Packers to win. I'm wrong plenty. We're both wrong. We always say this. If we were right all the time, we wouldn't be doing this because we'd be winning a lot of money in Vegas. But I did back him and said they should not cut him, and I'm glad they didn't. And that goes to Stefanski. And it also goes to another point that you made, that they practiced that play to get up to the line. And I know all NFL teams do, but that's just another good sign of good coaching and having your team in a position to win the game when you're in that position and making it happen. And that's just, those two factors right there. I got to give Stefanski credit. He stuck with the kicker and that play right there, because if they don't get up to the line, it's over. And it goes
overtime.
Right?
Yeah.
But possibly lose.
Sure. You're 100% right. And we've seen that not work, right? Wasn't it Dallas in the playoffs, I think, under Mike McCarthy, who's a Super Bowl winning coach? They couldn't get to the line in time. Or there was some play at the end of the game where they screwed up when they're trying to run the same kind of drill that the same kind of situation that the Browns did. And everybody has to be on the same page. Joe Flacco in the huddle tells everybody exactly what they're going to do. Njoku has to know to get down, get enough yards, and then get down. Everybody gets back in a bunch formation. It worked like clockwork, and then you give your kid a chance to go win the game. So there was a lot there that went right. Plenty of that could have gone wrong. But I do think, I think Stefanski does deserve credit for those things. Now, they got to figure out some stuff on offense, which he's also in charge of. But I'm with you. The end of the game was managed really well.
Yeah. And we'll get to that down the line. Believe me, we're going to talk a lot about that. But just in general, how big of a win was this for the organization and the fans? I mean, this is a big win for the fans.
Yeah, I mean, win number one is big every year. Who they did it against, I think, matters, because Green Bay is a Super Bowl contender. I don't care if they lost to the Browns or not. Jordan Love makes a bad decision and a bad throw on that interception, but he's a really good quarterback. That's a really good coach over there. They didn't play a clean game. There's a ton of penalties from the Packers. I thought LaFleur, their coach, made a couple of, especially at the end of the third quarter, he didn't let the clock run down. He runs a play when he didn't need to, and they're up 10-0. And then it's 3rd and 3, I want to say, and Jordan Love winds up taking a sack and hurts their field position. So there were some weird things that went on from a Packers standpoint, but I don't think that diminishes at all the quality of win for the Browns. And I think what's also, when you talk about big picture, can this turn into more? And I would say yes. Now, the schedule's still tough, right? They got to go to Detroit on Sunday and play a Lions team that just went into Baltimore and beat up Baltimore. And, that's an impressive victory for Detroit. So it's not going to get any easier. But I think what they have here, Chud, is they know the defense is outstanding. And, I don't know if I'm ready to say elite. I don't know the difference between elite and outstanding. But I'll tell you what, it's had 3 really difficult challenges in 3 weeks. Joe Burrow and the Bengals, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, Jordan Love and the Packers. And the defense has been phenomenal throughout those 3 games. Leads the league in yardage. Excellent against the run and the pass. They're getting pressure on the quarterback. I don't think that's going away. I think that is sustainable and a foundation piece, which is just, okay, how do you do enough to steal a line from Kevin Stefanski to play complementary football, to get that complementary win? And it means your offense just does just enough. Your special teams does just enough. And Sunday wasn't just enough. It was more. It was block a field goal and kick a 55-yarder, right? That's a lot for your special teams, but it doesn't hurt you like it had the first 2 weeks. So
Hmm.
that's where this team is right now, and that's where this team needs to be. But when you have that defense, I think it gives you so much confidence as a team, and you go into every week going, yeah, we can win this game. We're going to be in position to win this game. And I feel like the Packers win and how they won it, not scoring until the final 4 minutes. I think that can be a confidence boost because it just gives you all this belief that all we have to do is hang around and good stuff can happen at the end.
Yeah. I mean, they saved their season probably. And I guess I will go back to this and maybe I have to backtrack a little where I said the first game was a must win because 0-1 turns to 0-2 to 0-3. But listen, hey, for the whole game, I was sitting there believing that still. But now I'm like, all right, well, they made up for that
Right.
first loss because maybe 1-2 is just what they are, Scott, right? We talk
Yeah.
about that sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just who they are. They're a 1-2 team.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair, Chud. And, if they go to lose the next four, then this game will be an anomaly. But it doesn't feel like that. And we talk so much about the roller coaster ride of the season and how perception and all that changes. But so that's why I guess I'm searching for something that isn't just this week. And I think that's the defense. And the defense isn't a 1 week wonder. I think it's going to be there all year. That doesn't mean they can't give up 28 to Detroit, right? Baltimore scored 41, but there were circumstances. My point is this defense is going to give this team a chance to win more games than not. And that gives me reason to think, okay, this team could win more games than we thought a week ago.
Scott, one thing I will say, looking back at it, and you made a great pick with Buffalo Green Bay in the Super Bowl, but remember last year I picked Green Bay because I thought we might see what they did in the first 2 weeks this year, last year, the whole season, right? And they were good last year, but man, I'll tell you, they do have a little bit of a history of blowing games and,
Yeah.
and Jordan Love not living up exactly to what people were hoping he would do. So I mean, their defense is elite, but sometimes they do let down a little bit. And that's why I didn't pick them to go to the Super Bowl. Now I could be very wrong and you could be very right, and they could go there. But I don't know. It just feels like, like I picked the Eagles. I feel like the Eagles find a way to win games and get it done. And the Packers just find a way to almost be there, but just not quite.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We'll have to see how it goes. The Packers are so good the first 2 weeks, but those are both at home. It's a small sample size. They need Jordan Love to take that next step and to make a bunch of plays in the fourth quarter, or at least make the right plays in the fourth quarter and not hurt them in the fourth quarter like he did when they're winning, like with the Browns. So yeah, it remains to be seen. I just think they have so many pieces, and that defense is legit too. I mean, Micah Parsons, he didn't have any
Yeah.
sacks, but he was in the backfield. Obviously, Joe Flacco knew he was there. Rashawn Gary had a couple sacks. They got some guys on that defense.
So, yeah, no, their defense is great. Do you think the Browns' defense is the best in the league right now?
I think it is. I think it's, having seen Green Bay, who was, I think they were number two against the run. The Browns were number one heading in. I think the Browns is better than Green Bay. I don't know who else is in that top five discussion right now across the league, but it's not Baltimore. I'll tell you that. Um, yeah, right now I'm willing to say that, Judd. As long as their corners stay healthy, and I'm sure we talked about this last week with Denzel Ward, that's a big concern. If they don't have Denzel Ward or Greg Newsome the second, then they can be in trouble. I mean, they made Cam Mitchell a healthy scratch this week after he gave up the 3 touchdowns against the Ravens. So you can tell they're searching for that fourth corner because Miles Harden is playing okay in the nickel right now. But they need those two guys on the outside. But as long as those guys are healthy, and obviously Miles Garrett is healthy, I think I'm ready to say that this defense is the best in the league.
Do you feel, and you mentioned that it kind of, will big things come from this? I guess is the question. And, it's tough to predict, but you're around these guys. Do you think that they believe? It's one thing to say it. Do you
Right.
think that they believe that they big things can come from this?
I do. I think there's probably in the back of their mind, are we going to score enough points? I think that's just reality. But, you listen to a guy like Newsom talk, and he's always enthusiastic. and probably takes things too far. But he talks about stacking wins and people are going to be jumping on the bandwagon. I thought Myles Garrett, just a celebration from a guy like Garrett, and even a guy like Joe Flacco at the end of that game, and kind of for two different reasons or two different ways they got there. Myles Garrett had another good game, half a sack, tackle for loss. The defense plays great. The defensive line played great as a whole. So when they win, it's this huge celebration. And I think it's, hey, we might be able to keep doing this, right? We got the first one we needed. Joe Flacco jumps off the bench, gives a huge scream, and that was more relief. So I think it's kind of a combination because when you don't score any points and they haven't scored many points for 3 weeks, then there's that doubt in your head. And Joe Flacco, after the game, I thought it was fascinating. Chad, I wanted to write a story about it Sunday night. Talked about how hard it was. And he must have said hard 20 times in that interview. And he just was getting that point across that nobody wants to be going 3 and out or punting every time they have the ball. And he said it feels awful when you're out there. He goes, part of you's embarrassed. Part of you wants to hide because things aren't going well. And he's experienced so much success that in this league that he knows what it feels like, right? He knows what it feels like to throw for 400 yards and everything's clicking and you trust everybody on your offense and things are easy. And when it's not, it's hard and it's tough to operate like that. And you're looking at your receivers and the receivers are frustrated. And you're looking at your O-line, it's missing its 2 tackles, and it's a struggle for them. And you're getting booed at your home stadium, and the people are talking about Dylan Gabriel, right? When are they going to go to Dylan Gabriel? So you're even at 40 years old, Joe Flacco's dealing with all those emotions and is just trying to go play to play and not turn the ball over and hang around and make a couple of plays. And they wind up being able to do that. But so you can celebrate the win, but at the same time going, hey, if we're going to have any chance this season, offensively, we need to do better. And yes, I just said that, hey, the defense gives them a chance, and that's true. But you can't win a lot of games 13-10, right? Like you have to score more points than that. You can't just rely on your defense giving you the ball at the 4-yard line. You have to be able to operate more efficiently and explosively offensively. So I think that's the thing holding everybody back from saying, or at least I think should hold everybody back from saying, okay, look out, because this offense needs to at least go one more level, if not 2 or 3 more levels.
Yeah, Scott, as much as I back Stefanski, I'm going to be honest. I would have pulled Flacco in that game just from what I saw
Really?
the week before. Yeah, I think I would have. Yeah, wow. It was so bad, and I'm like, they need a spark. They need something. Now, I'm wrong because they came back and they won, and I'll give Stefanski credit for that. But the reason they won was because of the interception and everything went right. And I will say this. This is where if you did bring in Gabriel, he may have thrown 2 pick sixes, and then you wouldn't have been in the position to win. So in that regard, Flacco did just enough so they couldn't lose, right? Flacco didn't lose him the game, but he didn't win him the game. But on the counter to that, Scott, Gabriel could have come in and maybe led him on a touchdown drive or 2. I mean, we don't know. So, yeah, obviously I'm wrong because they came back to win. But I think at that point, I was thinking they were going to 0-3, and let's just see what the kid's got. Can he spark this offense?
Well, I'm so glad you brought this up, and obviously I wanted to talk about this, Chud. So why are you saying it was Joe Flacco's fault that this offense wasn't moving the ball, or is it just because he's the quarterback and that's the one position you can change, and obviously quarterback has such an impact that if you had a new guy in there, maybe he makes a difference? Or did you look at Flacco and go, this guy's not playing well?
Yeah, I mean, we could just go back to last year when they made the quarterback change and you saw the offense just completely change. I mean, just Flacco's it's not the same Flacco that we had, 2 years ago. And I don't know, he looks slow. Do I put the full blame on him? No. But I mean, Scott, do you think he's looked good?
Well, I thought he looked good in week 1. I thought the drop passes killed him. He threw for 290. He didn't look good in Baltimore, obviously. He had the terrible interception, then the fumble return for a touchdown. And then they don't move the ball against Green Bay. So I understand. I do. Um, but my counter is there's a lot that goes on there. And the reason he doesn't look like he did in 2023 is because so much has changed offensively. And it was wide open in 2023. It's not wide open now. They are playing way more conservatively, and I think part of that's because the defense is good. Part of that's because the offense is so young. Part of that's because the offense didn't have its 2 starting tackles. It didn't have Quinshon Judkins early in the year. And there's just not a lot of hope here, no matter who's playing quarterback, for them to put up a ton of points. Now, could Flacco have played better? Certainly. Were there a couple of shots downfield that he didn't take and probably should have, and that could have made a big difference? Yes, and I went back and I watched the all 22, and it's not as many as people think, but are there 3 during the game where he could have taken a shot to Isaiah Bond? Yes. But is he operating with the mentality of, I can't turn the ball over, I need to not put my defense in bad spots, and I need a bunch of completions, and I'm going to get the ball out of my hand in a hurry because I don't trust the protection? I think all those things are factors. Is he playing a little bit too conservatively? Maybe. And I can't wait to talk to Joe about that on Wednesday. I don't know if any of that changes with Dylan Gabriel. The pass protection isn't getting any better. Dylan Gabriel, maybe does he scramble a little better than Joe? Yeah. Is he going to be a game changer like a Lamar Jackson? No. Is all of a sudden there a lot of separation from the receivers? No. So I get it that you need a spark. I just don't know if I personally would not put most of the blame at Flacco's feet.
Yeah, so Scott, I just think when it comes to Flacco, I mean, I guess I am a little bit back and forth on it. And I felt like I hit my limit there because it was so bad, 2 games in a row. And I know they're tough defenses, although Baltimore, well, I guess last night,
right.
I guess my point is, he could lose you a game. Flacco is a guy that can throw an interception and cost you a game. We've seen him do it before, but he obviously didn't lose them the game, and again, I'm repeating myself, but at some point I just feel like I want to see what these rookies can do. And I guess maybe we're not at that point yet. So maybe that victory does buy him more time. And no, I don't completely blame him completely. It's not on him. It's an entire offense. I get that. You make a great point there. But at some point, there might be a point where you just can't look back and you got to make the move. And yeah. I guess I'm just frustrated by it.
Yeah, I get that. And I think a lot of people share your views, Chud. I just am not there yet. I get the clock's ticking. I get there's 2 rookie quarterbacks behind Flacco. It's still only week 3. Like I said, there's a lot going on with that offense that I don't think is Joe's fault. I think he's trying to figure out how to not throw interceptions and protect the ball and kind of protect the defense, which is against his, I think, natural instincts. He's a guy that likes to push the ball down the field and likes to open it up and take chances and show off that big arm. So I think he's struggling in that to find that right fit. And maybe he can't do it. And maybe he runs out of time and it's Dylan Gabriel next week or, in London. But I kind of would like to see Flacco get a little bit longer chance, especially if they win a game or 2 and hang around. I still think he gives you the best chance to win. But you're right. That calculus could change at some point where that's no longer the case.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, Gabriel could come in and, throw 3 interceptions and, we just don't know. It's the unknown. I don't think you can really base what happens in preseason to really know what you have in the guy. And obviously, honestly, I'd love to see what Shedeur could do, but obviously their pecking order has it, Gabriel first, and we've been over that a bunch of times.
Right.
And, I mean, I guess we have to trust. The hard part is, as much as I do back Stefanski, I do not back the Browns in the way they handle their quarterback situation because there's nothing they've done historically to
Yeah,
prove that they've done it right. So, I mean, it's kind of tough to have faith in them right now.
I agree. And I do want to say this, Chud. If if the Browns had a first round quarterback sitting on the bench, then I think I'd feel differently. Dylan Gabriel's a third rounder, right? Number 94. They might have been the only team to take him that high. And I get the realities of they could have another high pick next year, and you want to see how these guys look. I'm not like oblivious to that, but I personally don't have a whole lot of, I guess, eagerness to see Dylan Gabriel. I'm not saying he can't be good and you don't need to see him at some point, but I feel like it's different. This situation's different than Jackson Dart in with the Giants. You know, they took him higher, and I think there's a thought that, man, he could be the franchise quarterback. I would be stunned, and I could be wrong, if Dylan Gabriel winds up being that franchise quarterback. So I don't know if I'm in a rush to see that when I still think Joe Flacco has something left in the tank. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I think we do have to remember it's less than 24 months ago when he was the toast of the town and he threw for 300 yards a bunch of games in a row. So that I don't think that part of Joe Flacco has changed. I think the circumstances have changed.
Yeah, I don't know if it's I'm eager to see someone else as much as I'm eager to stop seeing the things that are scratching at my
Yeah,
eyeballs.
that's fair. That's
It
fair.
was, it was, and um, yeah, I hey, and listen, I mean, it's amazing, you know, as a fan too. It's like it's incredible the emotions that you go through. You know, when you watch something for almost an entire game and then it completely changes in 3 minutes, and in the unthinkable fashion that did. And you know, we have to give credit to the special teams because we've been hard on them with good reason after the first 2 weeks. But I mean, you don't win that game without the special teams play.
Oh, there's no doubt about it, Judd. And you know, we talked last week about Bubba Ventrone, and the buck stops there, and they need to be better, and they hadn't been good enough. This week they were. And again, I don't blame Bubba Ventrone, the special teams coordinator, when a guy misses a kick. But when kicks get blocked and punts get blocked and you block field goals like that, the coach does get credit and blame for that. So they had a good week last week, and they wouldn't have won the game without the special teams. So yeah, it's I'm sure Bubba celebrated hard. I know he did. I saw some of him in the locker room and on the sideline, and I'm sure he feels good about the bounce back.
Yeah, and you know, this game didn't have that one play that kind of changed the direction of the whole thing, did it?
Well, I mean, do you mean from a negative standpoint? No,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, no, not at all. They were
right.
clean. You know, I don't remember a big return they gave up. You know, I wouldn't have taken the ball out of the end zone to open the game like Caden Davis did. The touchback goes to the 35 now. I'm pretty sure I would take the touchback anytime I could. And he returns it, gets tackled like the 26. You're giving up a first down by doing that. I get they're trying to be, or he's trying to be aggressive. I don't know if Bubba wanted him to bring it out. Um, so, you know, there's little things like that. I think DeAndre Carter called a fair catch when he shouldn't have once or twice. But there was not that big play, the game turner, like we saw against Baltimore and like the missed kicks and even a big return against Cincinnati week one.
Yeah. Big injury losing Jones.
It is. And for a few reasons, Judd. First of all, he's your starter, and we're talking about the protection not being great, and all of a sudden you got two backups at tackle, 4 plays in. And, you know, they didn't put Jack Conklin on the IR, which makes you think that he's going to be back. You know, he's already missed 2 games. Makes you think he's going to be back before you had to miss the mandatory 4 of going on IR. You know, Kevin Stefanski says he's still day to day. So if you get Jack Conklin back and he's playing at a high level like he did last year, that helps at right tackle. And then you can figure out left tackle between Cornelius Lucas or KT Leviston. Um, it's really hard when you're down both tackles because you don't know who to help. And can you help both guys? And then if you help both tackles, that means only 3 guys are getting out into pass patterns to start the play. Sure that you can chip and then release, but it just changes the equation and the math and all that from an offensive and defensive standpoint, as opposed to, hey, we're going empty, we trust our tackles, and 5 guys are going out there. That puts some stress on the defense. The Browns are not in a position to do that with both their backup tackles. So they need Conklin to come back and play well. The other part of Jones is he's been in the league 3 years. This is the third year in a row he's going to finish the season on IR. So how can you trust him, or can you trust him moving forward? Let's say rehab goes great, he comes back. If he's your starter week 1, you probably have to have a backup plan because you don't know if the guy's going to get hurt. And, it's a couple of torn knee ligaments. He's had knee surgery. This will be the third straight year with knee surgery. He had a broken leg last year. So I think that's a big picture thing you have to take a look at, as well as he's the only starter among the week 1 starting 5 on the line that was under 30 and under contract beyond this season. So there's a lot of uncertainty on that line moving forward.
Wow.
And I think you got to include Jones in it. Like the hope going into the season, you talk about, winning games, but there's a couple subplots. And one of them was, can DeJuan Jones prove that he's your long-term left tackle? If he did, that takes away a huge need and a huge priority. Now, I would say that he's not proven that, and especially because they had him playing right tackle to start this game. So I think you go into the draft you need a left tackle high in this draft.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Anything else from Packers game before we get to prediction time in the Lions?
I just wanted to mention a couple rookies real quick. I talked about Judkins, and he had those 2 runs that really sparked the offense. And we're talking about how this offense can be better. I think, sure, they can improve in a million different little ways, and that helps. And maybe a quarterback switch would be the biggest difference. But I think given your current circumstances, having Quinshon Judkins as your workhorse guy that makes the defense bring another guy down into the box, that's how this offense can change. If he can have big games and open up the passing game and play action works, and all of a sudden the linebackers suck in and Joe Flacco's got some of those over routes, and those are 23-yard throws that the Browns have not been able to hit, and you keep the pass rush on its heels because you have a big-time running back, that's where this offense has a chance, I think, to take a big step quickly, because he took a big jump from his first game to his second game. So I think that's a reason to be optimistic. And I like the way he runs, and he's a hard runner. And Stefanski calls him a volume runner, which he wears down teams. So I thought that was worth pointing out. And in Mason Graham, Jim Schwartz talked about how he needed to be better as a pass rusher, and he was this week. He got a half a sack, and he was in the backfield a lot. So a couple of rookies really showing up.
All right, now on to the Lions.
Yep.
Pretty incredible. I mean, this 3-week stretch, and I know the Ravens are not off to the start that they want to be off to, but to go from the Ravens to the Packers to the Lions, all teams that some would predict to win the Super Bowl, Scott.
Yeah. No, without a doubt. I mean, these are, the Bengals is a different animal with Joe Burrow out, right? But the last 3 weeks are certainly teams that are in the top. I haven't looked at the odds, but they have to be in the top 6 Super Bowl odds. Maybe the Ravens have dropped a little bit, but Detroit gets beat by Green Bay week 1. Has played great the last 2 weeks. Don't look like they're missing Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator that went to Chicago. I remember watching ESPN after the opener, and oh my gosh, what are they going to do without Ben Johnson? They look so ordinary. Yeah, well, that offense has not looked ordinary the last 2 weeks. So it's another great test. And Chud, I went back and forth between Lions, Packers to go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC this year.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that more so to prove my point of what I'm talking about. And a lot of people had neither of us put the Ravens in the Super Bowl, but a lot of people did. And I know the odds before the beginning of the year, they were one of the top teams. So
yeah, I still think they run away with the division.
Tough stretch. Impressive, the Lions going to Baltimore and do what they do. I mean, I thought the Ravens were going to win that game last night.
Yeah, I mean, they were 5.5-point favorites, right? And they were missing some guys, and they were still 5.5-point favorites. And I think that tells you something about the mentality of the Lions. And I'm interested to talk to Kevin Stefanski about that. Dan Campbell gets all this run, and probably deservedly so. but they go for it on fourth down a ton. They went for it late, and they throw a pass, kind of a downfield pass to St. Brown that winds up just about clinching the game. Um, so they're bold about going for it on fourth down. They run trick plays. You just have to be prepared for everything. And I feel like the way they play stresses the other team, stresses the other coaching staff. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Browns handle that and deal with it. Especially to get back to my conservative point, I feel like teams playing the Browns, and especially Green Bay, are conservative because, number one, they don't want to risk Myles Garrett coming free and wrecking the game. So they're conservative from that standpoint. Plus, they know they're not going to have to score a ton of points, right? Because the Browns aren't going to score a ton of points. I don't know if Detroit goes into the game with that mentality. I think they just kind of freewheel it. So it could be a little bit of a different game than we've been used to seeing.
Yeah. Boy, you just think about having Myles Garrett and that defense. If they could just get something going on the offense, it could make for a little bit of a fun season. Obviously, we're both 1-2. We got this one wrong. I think most of America got it wrong.
Sure.
But what do you think? You want to go first? You want to take a stab at the Lions?
Yeah, let me go first. I think the Browns are 8.5-point dogs again, second straight week. It's hard for me to be down on the Browns and predict a big Lions win, given how well the defense played, all the stuff we talked about. I think there's a chance this offense is better as it moves forward. I think Joe Flacco finds that balance between pushing it and being careful. I can't pick the Browns to go into Detroit and win. That's a really difficult place when the crowd's loud. I've been there, and it's loud even when the crowd, when the Lions are bad. But when the Lions are good, it gets really loud. I'm going to go 24-20. I'm a little, I'm not sure I want to give Detroit that many points given how the Browns defense played. But, Jared Goff is good. They got two running backs. The ball can bounce funky in that turf. So I think we just might see a little bit more. I don't know if there's going to be turnovers or whatever. A little higher scoring game than last week. I'm going to go Detroit 24-20.
Yeah, they do have two good running backs. They got multiple receivers, obviously. St. Brown, Goff's playing well. Yeah, I think the confusing thing for me is the over-under is 45.5, and I'm just trying to figure out, unless the Lions blow out, they get not being able to score. Maybe, obviously, the NFL changes week to week. So maybe this is the week the Browns find a way to put up a lot of points.
Right.
Yeah, I guess we can expect anything. I mean, but I'm like you. I just can't pick the Browns to win this one. But I'm going to keep it close, similar to you. I'm going to go 21-16. And, I mean, I think the Lions, like you would think you'd put them in the 30s, right? I mean, but I think the Browns defense can hopefully – unless it just gets away, right? Like, I mean, unless you have a certain, it could be like the Ravens game. I guess, you know what, Scott, this could go one of two ways. It could be like the Ravens game where they play them close, the defense is good, and then it just gets away and it's, it just kind of snowballs, and that's how they get to like 30 or 35, right?
Yeah.
Or it could be like this Packers game where the Browns defense dominates and, the Lions, I still think the Lions offense is good enough to put up some points. It's just a matter of what the Browns can do. So I'll go 21-16.
Yeah, I like that score, Chud. And you're right. And that's the problem playing with kind of this thin margin, right? Like if stuff starts to bounce the wrong way, you get, there's a turnover here, a big play here. You don't know if you can trust your offense to keep you in the game. So I completely get what you're saying. I do want to say, Chud, we had a little discussion here. We talked about nosers and nostrils. I had to get a ruling in the press box Sunday. I had the Browns scoring 13 last week, but in a loss. So I asked if it was a nostril, and I was told no, that you have to get it. It has to be in a win for you to get it right like that.
Didn't we both have 13? Didn't we have?
We might have. We might have both had it, yeah.
I think Yeah, we had similar scores last week, I
Yeah,
thought, or
Browns-
maybe that may have been week 1. I know we had the same score one week, but
yeah.
you were rejected on your request.
I was. I mean, I had the Browns scoring 13, but in a loss, so I guess that doesn't count.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, because you didn't get the other score right.
Well, yeah, right. And I had
What's
the wrong
that?
team winning.
Yeah. What's the score when you get it
Noser.
right on the
Noser.
noser?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. All right. Well, there's a lesson for the listeners. Thanks, Chud. I appreciate it, buddy. A lot to talk about this week. Hopefully, I have a lot to talk about next week. I'm sure we will.
And hey, go Guardians, man!
Oh
What
my
a
gosh.
stretch they're on. I mean, oh my goodness, what a series this will be against the Tigers.
No kidding, right? Big game tonight. Big game. So yeah,
Yep.
lot to pay attention to. So appreciate that, Chud. I know you were at the ballpark early today, so I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks everybody for listening. This has been another episode of the Zone Coverage Podcast, and you can read all my work at brownzone.com. Thanks.